Man, those are some scenes from the first season that I was hoping I'd never have to see again. I knew it was going to eventually have to come up again, but what a fantastic episode. Episode 15 of Oshinoko. Finally starting to get into the mind of Aqua. I will admit, I think I talked about this in my reviews for the first season. I never really cared much for Aqua's character because he's just a bit too much. Like he's very single-minded, and I felt like his character was going to be a hard character for me to really kind of understand, and I feel like this episode helped me understand him a lot more, and that's really through why he is so driven in one single direction. And I think the thing that points it out the most is, yes, of course, the scene where that trauma comes back to him. Main key thing here, again, Kana coming up there, knowing that he's not good at this emotional acting, and she's trying to help him by giving him an example of a way to do that. And so yes, unfortunately, Kana not knowing that his mother is actually dead, she proposed the idea, imagine if your mother was dead. Again, by everybody's account, they all think that Aqua's mother is alive. He's got a new mother, and that is his mother. So Kana's saying that he's going to think of his actual mother that nobody knows about, and that trauma comes back to him. And I was like, oh crap, this is going to be bad. He's going to have a panic attack. He's going to break right here. But no, he quickly recovers. And that's the key thing there. My assumption is it's the trauma itself. But it isn't until later when he goes, okay, that kind of sucks. It's when he starts to think about the other side of this emotional acting, which is that he's supposed to act like, man, this girl that I love is dead, but then suddenly he realizes she's alive. So he has to think about happiness. He's not good at that. This is a guy that doesn't show happiness. Obviously, Kana even noted that. You're not good at showing expressions and showing your emotions. You always keep it bottled up. So of course, when you're acting, you're going to fail miserably at it. So she's trying to help him with this idea. He starts to try to think of happiness, which, mind you, Ruby was the one when he finally started smiling. I know. He's thinking about all the girls. He thinks about Akane. He thinks about moments with Kana. And then he goes, oh, yeah, and by the way, my sister Ruby. And suddenly he smiles. No, anyways, he thinks of this great moment of Ruby and all them performing, and he gets happy. He smiles. This is the key thing, and this is where I feel like I understand his character a lot more now. It's not the trauma of I dying, like the moment of it. That's obviously bad. He even mentions, I can still remember the smell. I can remember the temperature in her hand as a life left her. All these things are so vivid in his mind. No, the thing that makes him break is that he won't allow himself to be happy. That's the key thing there. And that makes perfect sense. Again, throughout the entire first season, I'm seeing this character that just does nothing but think about this one thing. And yes, it's hard for me to really kind of understand his character because things are going to happen that will deviate your mind away from that. You're going to have, whether you like it or not, things around you, especially if you're not hole up in your room or something like that, if you're going out and you're doing things, again, being involved with all these people, doing all these jobs, you're going to eventually get sidetracked from this single-minded sense. Now it makes more sense because through what happens right there, I now understand himself will not allow himself to be happy. He has this deep-rooted inner self that will not allow him to forget and will not allow him to move on. That makes much more sense to me than anything else that's really kind of been portrayed throughout the series, which, yes, was technically stated at the very beginning. When the funeral first happens, he says, I'm going to find this person. But never to the sense of, I'm not allowed to be happy. I failed and I'm not allowed to be happy. You didn't protect her. You failed to protect her. You are not supposed to be happy. Stop being happy. And that's when he breaks. That's the trauma that he is dealing with. And I think it was so well portrayed. The manga is a little bit more clear here. It's pretty obvious who this is. The anime decided to turn him into a smoke monster, but yes, it's obvious based on the glasses. This is himself. This is his old self. The manga is pretty clear. It's literally physically no smoke or anything. It's him. It's his old self from his past life. His old self is saying, you failed to protect the one that you love the most, the one that you admired the most. You failed that. So again, really cool to reveal there. And again, my stomach kind of dropped the moment that Kana said that, but I'm like, I understand why she says that. I mean, it's not like she was being nasty there. Again, they just don't know about Apparently Akane knows now. The cat's out of the bag. Akane has put all the pieces together. It took a while, but she put all the pieces together. Now, granted, I think if I recall back to when Akane first took her upon herself, the persona of I think when she was researching there, she figured it out, but it never solidified it. Like it almost, like she got right there. And I think now she's finally putting all those pieces together. Okay, now it all makes sense. They never talked about what Ai's actual name was. And yes, she possibly had a kid. And yes, this trauma. And yes, he's now saying Ai's name out loud while he's sitting there in pain. Yeah, he has a secret. I now know that secret. And yeah, I like the fact that she puts it in the idea that it's sad that you've always had to keep that a secret this whole time. That I will be there for you now. I'm going to support you now. I mad respect for Akane. I mean, I've never not liked Akane, but she wasn't my favorite. It was always Kana and Ruby, but she's a third. She's a third there. I've always loved her story, though. I've really, really liked Akane's story. It's just I don't really have like an appeal for her. But this definitely bumped her up. Just that the support that she kind of quickly shifts into, rather than it turning into, oh, I know a secret, now I can reveal things or something like that. There was a lot of really dumb directions they could have took her character, but thankfully she likes Aqua enough that she's going to protect him. But yeah, really cool stuff. I also like the fact that the moment that he kind of has that trauma come back to him, his initial thought is, don't contact Ruby. Don't contact my family. I don't want Ruby to get involved because she's moving forward. Now, I don't understand why he immediately thinks that contacting, anybody, which would probably lead to Ruby finding out, even if he just contacted his mother, that it eventually would get to Ruby. I don't know why he immediately assumes that she would be brought into that, unless he assumes that she's going to probably grill him until he tells her what's going on with him, and that would be this trauma. He specifically says that she has moved forward. She's looking towards the future, and she doesn't need to be reminded about the past. He's stuck in it. He's always been stuck in it. And that's been the cool thing that this series has had with it, is that you have two people that have experienced the same trauma. Now, granted, he's seen it firsthand. He was right there. She was on the other side of the door. They never implied if she ever even seen their mother's corpse, which would have been very, very traumatizing. The assumption is that he kept her on the other side of the door until somebody got there. She was removed, and then Ruby was removed, thankfully allowing her not to have to see the gruesome result. But again, the cool thing here is it's always been Aqua has been stuck in the past, dwelling on the act itself, whereas Ruby herself is focused on fulfilling the dream of her mother. I'm getting revenge. I'm fulfilling the dream. And it's been a really cool thing between the two of them. And here he's acknowledging, no, she's got this path that is actually a lot better than what I'm doing. I'm stuck in the past and revenge, and it's a depressing and dark place that I'm at, trying to seek this out. I don't want to get her involved. It's cool stuff. It is really, really cool stuff. Outside of that, it was very interesting to see the computer at the very end of the episode where it had 3 folders. I mean, there was a bunch of folders, but mainly the ones with names on it was Aqua, Hoshino, which of course, Aqua would be Aqua himself. Hoshino is probably going to be I Hoshino, and it's probably just named that so that he doesn't have a file called I. Or it could just be the family in general, just all 3 of them. The other 2, I don't know. I think Hikaru is a name of a character that was in the first season, but I don't recall who that was. And Hajimari, I don't have a single clue who that is. So my assumption here is that you do have them 2 and possibly 2 other people that are tied to I or Aqua in general that we may get into at some point. Maybe these are people that he's investigating or people that he knows personally that might be tied to the whole situation. So that was an interesting little touch there. It was interesting when they first brought up the PTSD. I thought the guy was going to totally reveal everything about Aqua and I right then. He's like, oh, well, you're his girlfriend, so I guess I can tell you. I'm like, no way you're actually going to tell her. A girlfriend, not wife. And she figured it out anyways. Kana in this episode was interesting. I like the fact that she was willing to step up there and say, look, you got to stop babying him. He's obviously not going to figure this out. Saying it's okay, you'll figure it out. It's not going to help him. I like that Kana was being very direct about it, which again, I think because she understands Aqua way more than Akane, she's going to understand that. But I do like the fact that she mentions that and he says, yeah, you're right. And then she immediately gets all bright up yes, I can finally explain something to Aqua. Finally, I can teach him something. She's super excited about it. And again, she doesn't know about the mother, so it's kind of that was really mean, but at the same time, she doesn't know. But man, later on, when he actually has the breakdown, she gets so jealous. It sucks in the midst of what's happening, but it's honest that, yes, she wants to go after Aqua. Obviously, Aqua isn't doing well. She reacted very quickly. Aqua's not doing well. He just collapsed. Kana's freaking out. And she wants to go with Aqua, but she doesn't know him personally, so she can't go after him. And so when they call for Akane to do it, obviously she's going to be jealous. But it was kind of one of those, because we know the weight of the situation, it kind of feels very petty that she's like, oh, how convenient Akane gets to go because she's his girlfriend. Anyhow, other than that, yeah, we of course had Abiko meeting up with Raida. I do like the fact that Raida kind of put it the way that he did. And it was kind of what Aqua said, you know, you have to be the one to do it. And that was mainly because he understood it more than anybody else. He had to be the one that had to step up. And I do like that because it's really cool because he kind of puts it in a way of like, you have your rights, like your protections for your creative art. I don't know if this is like a nationwide thing, like it is a law or something like that. It kind of puts it more in the idea that it's in the agreement. And it might be a standard thing in agreements that without the creator's consent, they can't change things. And I can see that being a protection, almost like a copyright protection for your property. I just always kind of assumed that in a lot of cases, the publisher themselves has more control than the creator themselves. But again, they could have those protections in certain publishers for their creators. But even still, I like that because he finally kind of stood up and spoke out. Look, I got over 100 people that I have to worry about. I can't not push this. This entire time he's been giving and giving because he doesn't want to make a bad relationship with the publisher. But this is the moment where he finally has to go, look, I can't not speak up. Even goes so far to say I'm willing to bleep the bleep of an old man if I have to. I liked it. It was bold. I liked it. But again, that all leads up to them doing the little remote cloud editing and apparently getting a little carried away to the point where they created something that's going to be a little difficult to actually adapt. My assumption is what they kind of implied there is that a lot of exposition was taken out, which is a lot of explaining things which can easily be presented because a lot of the exposition can be done while they're transitioning. And I think what they're implying here is a lot of that exposition is going to be done by the actual actors as they're moving into scene to scene, which means, again, the production has to do a lot more putting together and the actors themselves have to constantly be on the stage and transitioning with the stage itself. So I think that's what they're kind of implying there is that they got a little too carried away. Like things are going to be like on the edge when they actually put this together. There's going to be no room for breathing or anything. And yes, that means that if it does screw up, it's probably going to be the fault of the actors. And yes, that also means that it's probably going to be insanely good if they actually pull it off. But yeah, cool stuff. Love the conclusion for Abiko, her finally accepting this stuff. Again, meeting halfway was the key thing there. And yes, Go being able to get involved. Again, it didn't really fall into what I was hoping it would, which, again, for those that missed my previous videos, I was really hoping for it to be a situation where Go was going to come in there, present something, and Abiko actually accept it because my prediction was that the princess herself was going to be more involved and not cut like the manga cut her. It sort of did do that because apparently it falls more in line with what Akane thought that character was going to be, so they did technically bolster up that character, just not in the way that I thought it was going to be. Anyhow, cool stuff. Can't wait for the next episode. Hopefully they wrap up the stage play stuff here soon because there's a lot of characters they're kind of cutting to that I don't care about. A lot of these members of the actual play itself, if they're not going to do anything with the characters, just move on. But we'll see. I'm assuming next episode we might finally get the stage play. But anyhow, that's my thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know the thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I use reviews, first impressions, top lists, if it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have links in the description below. Greatly appreciate what it does. And y'all take care.